Hello and welcome to another edition of Recycle. Don't be a waster. I say it every week, but I hope it is your favourite recycling podcast. In today's episode, we are going to cover something called, something that might get a bit of a bad rep sometimes in some newspapers and media, and that is ESG. What is ESG, you may ask? And it stands for Environmental, Social and Governance. And it is a buzzword in the world of business and investing, more so at the larger end of town, the major corporates. And I suppose anybody who's worked in business or finance over recent years will know that you've got a huge annual financial report for any big corporation, but progressively you also have an environmental report. It could be a large retail chain, and it could cover stuff such as emissions from trucks, carbon neutrality, are they planting trees, waste and recycling, water usage, how efficient their buildings are, all that sort of stuff, and potentially other aspects from a social perspective, equality in the workplace, paying people fair salaries, living wages, etc. I suppose from our perspective, as we are in the recycling game, in today's episode we want to take a discussion or take a introductory discussion on what ESG means for recycling and waste. And I think a lot of, even over the last 5, 6, 7 years, a lot of large corporations are reporting on recycling. They're taking the recycling and the waste information they get from providers. Oftentimes they're using third parties, people like Invisi, an IBM company, or multiple other environmental or carbon emission reporters, and trying to get a good grasp as to how much waste they're producing, what the recycling percentage is, how much is going to landfill, how much food waste they're producing, all those sort of things. And those are being factored into making plans, showing improvements, trends, showing areas, one shop versus another shop, etc. And also they're being reported in their ESG or environmental reports. I suppose, where does Waster come into this? Because, if you listen to our podcast, you will know that Waster focuses on small and medium businesses, cafes, restaurants, doctor surgeries, office blocks, those sort of things. These are the sort of businesses, you could call them mum and dad businesses, or, business larger than that also, but companies that don't, often struggle to produce their own financial accounts in small business. It's a large cost. A lot of smaller companies will use Xero or MYOB, etc. in Australasia for their accounting. And the question is, do they have time to do environmental reports? I'll be honest, I think in 99 point something percent, the answer is no. Even though people may want to, they'd love to know how they're doing from an environmental perspective. They would love to know if they're performing well, if they're increasing recycling this year, if they're taking advantage of all recycling opportunities out there, if they are reducing waste to landfill, and fundamentally also if they are reducing their cost, because in many regards recycling is at least relatively cheaper than waste to landfill. So I suppose that is where a lot of small companies are, but let's be honest, they struggle to do the financial accounts. They often have to engage a third-party accountant or financial professional, and I suppose the last thing they need is to have to produce another report from an ESG perspective. I think one of the things we think, I suppose a view I would have is, there's no point in society in looking at ESG reports from major corporates if we're ignoring, the 80% or 90% of small businesses, of the businesses that actually make up the economy, that do all the work outside the financial districts. If we're ignoring those, it sort of defeats the point of doing, tracking ESG at all for the larger corporates. So, there is a greenwashing element and a PR element clearly, but, when you're really looking at the end results, which are reducing emissions, saving costs, recycling more, those sort of things, you really need to look at it in a more holistic basis. So one thing Waster is really pushing into this year and next year is we're really looking at better environmental reporting, provided as standard to small customers in a way that would be easy to use, easy to read, free to the consumer, free to the end user, and they'll be able to track how they're doing, they'll be able to see how they're doing versus other businesses in the area, and hopefully that will highlight opportunities for them to recycle more, it will make the argument, maybe if we put in a cardboard bin, for example, that will save us X dollars per week, or X dollars per month, etc. And that will really help them understand and make that decision with numbers and figures. And I think what our objective is at Waster is to provide that info to small businesses, no matter how small, even if they're paying $20 a month. Provide that info to them as standard that large corporates often have to engage a third party to provide to them for their financial reports. So that's our objective. We know it will be a challenge, but we really do think it will help boost recycling. It will help reduce trucks on roads, or truck kilometres on roads, as we'll optimise recycling. And I think over time it will be, I think cafes and restaurants, if you're doing a great job recycling, you should be telling your customers about it. You should have your green stars in the window. And I think this is a real step, at least as a way how Waster could help you do that. So we'll certainly touch on this in future podcasts, but we'll leave it there today. So recycle, don't be a waster.